And a welcome here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora inside the Great Lakes Honda City Studios for this edition of Commissioner Corner. You know, we go all over the country speaking with leaders inside of collegiate athletics, and Noreen Morris has been no stranger to the broadcast, and neither has the Northeast Conference, as she is their leader, the commissioner of the Northeast Conference, the NEC. And happy as always to be here to share the stage with Miss Morris. Noreen, how you doing today?
I'm doing great, Dan. Good to see you. Great to be back on your show.
Yeah, happy to have you here. And you and I were talking off the air about the fact that realignment has affected this conference 4 years in a row of bringing in a new school. And you not only have been bringing in new institutions, but you've been bringing in these new members, a lot to come from that reclassification of Division Two into Division One, and a lot of really looking at the NE10, the Northeast 10 Conference in Division Two, which I covered for many years, and argued that it was the best conference in NCAA Division Two. And you've obviously seen its value and its worth, having a bunch of teams from the NE10 reclassified to the NEC from D2 to D1. So I'd love to start there, that not only are you utilizing the bridge between Division Two to Division One, but you've specifically looked at the NE10. What is it about that conference that you feel like has really spoken to the NEC that these schools could not only make the jump from D2 to D1, but that this conference had a lot of character and a lot of credibility on and off the fields and courts of life?
I think first off, kudos to the NE10 for building such a strong brand. And, Julie Rupert is a great leader. And it's unfortunate, right, that they're in our backyard. And when we look at new schools, we want to look at, what's the right fit for our schools. We look at schools from an academic standpoint, from, financial sustainability, obviously athletics. And geography is certainly a piece of it, although we have strayed a bit from our Northeast region geography with the additions of Mercyhurst out of the PSAC and Chicago State, who had been an independent at the D1 level. And so, I think what it is, it's a combination of, who from the Division Two ranks is interested in elevating to D1. And when there's schools that express an interest, then we will most certainly want to talk with them and see if there's a fit and see if it's a win-win partnership. And the fact that we've partnered with 3 schools now that have come through the NE10 does show what a great conference that is. And it's difficult from a commissioner standpoint, in the relationships that I've built over time with Julie, to continue to knock on her door. That's hard for her and for me, probably harder for her. And I'm the byproduct of that at the other end of the spectrum, right? So, but again, it does come down to, who's interested, and why are they interested in moving from D2 to D1, and then determine if they, fit what we're looking for in terms of institutional fit, the trajectory of the institutions from a financial and an academic standpoint, how they engage with their community, and most certainly the student athlete experience and the sports they sponsor. And, could they be successful in the NEC, and could they help elevate us? So those are all the things that we take into account.
Yeah, and like you said, when you're looking at who's the right fit and having these conversations, when it comes to the first phone call, is it the school reaching out to the NEC and saying, Noreen, we think we can do this. We think we're prepared to make the jump and we'd like to talk with you. Or is it the NEC reaching out to a school when you're obviously doing your research as a conference and saying, we think that this school could be a good one to target, good for our footprint, and we think they're capable of it? Who makes that first call?
Generally, it's been the school that will make that call, because we have to know there's an interest already, that it was a proactive conversation on their campus,
Yeah.
and that there's an interest in moving to D1. So generally, it has been that direction. And there's certainly certain schools want to take a look at it. They have to look at it internally, work with their boards, work with their senior staff, just to see if it's even an option, right? You don't want to get into a conversation with a school about going D1 and they haven't done their homework and they don't really understand what steps need to be taken to go from D2 to D1, not only from a financial perspective, but from philosophical perspective and kind of the fit and the trajectory of the institution. Does it align? And so that's not something you want to force, right? So that's why generally we've waited, for schools to say, yes, we're interested. There's always talk about, well, maybe this school might be interested, but the president isn't really sold yet, right? And so that we do want a school that is kind of coming to us at their own volition and understanding that it fits with what they would like their institution to be in the years to come.
And when they do reach out, I've known from obviously covering Lemoyne and being on the inside of their transition and still within that and spending a year of their, are they going to do this? Are they not going to do this? That you learn about the fact that they're trying to see what conference do we call. When it comes to the NEC, and that these schools might be reaching out to other conferences, might be looking at the NEC and then looking, what do they offer? What does everybody else offer? And they're stacking it up against each other. What do you feel is the pitch? Because obviously you've had success. You brought in a bunch of new institutions, and the newest one that we'll talk about is New Haven. What is it about the NEC's pitch that you feel like when a school is ready and they do make that phone call, and whether they tell you or not, hey, we might be looking at other conferences, that that they are, what is it about the NEC that you feel like is that brand that sells for you, that you feel like these are our pillars, this is what we stand on, and we really feel like when we go to a school and they tell us we're looking at 2-3 other conferences, we believe that we are this, and this is the thing that can get them? What is that thing?
Well, I think the first thing would be that our conference is truly dedicated to the student athlete experience in the ways that college athletics, is meant to be, which is they are a student first. Athlete is part of their experience within their college years. It's not the only experience, more that holistic approach. So our presidents are 100% committed to in developing the student athlete into the entire academic enterprise and the community. And I think our presidents are aligned, and they are all marching in the same direction. I think when you look at what's happening around us with the settlement and opting in and revenue distribution and all of those things, we're trying not to be distracted by that, because conferences at our level, we don't have the revenue that's coming in from like the SEC and Big Ten and the Power Four and even some of the Group of Six, and so we want to focus in on the things that we do well, which is provide our student athletes opportunities for championships. We sponsor probably more championships than any in sports of any conference in our geography. We have 25 sports that we sponsor. So I think that's appealing. We also have the resources internally, and when I say resources, the knowledge and the know-how on the transition process. There's a lot of moving parts when you go from D2 to D1 and through the reclassification process. And there's a lot of education that needs to happen. And I'd say we have the best conference compliance administrator in the country, and Lisa Archibald. And she is a tremendous asset to the schools that are going through the reclassification process. She is on the phone with them on a weekly basis as a group. She meets with those schools individually as well. And so I think we've provided the backdrop necessary for schools to be able to make that transition. And I think the way we do our business, we do a lot of things collectively. We do a lot of conference-wide initiatives, and I think that presidents who are looking for a D1 experience want to be part of something, right? A part of a team, and I think we do as a conference work as a team, and we work together, and we do it in a fiscally, sustainable way. We're not jumping, past our skis, so to speak. So I think all of those things combined make us very attractive.
Oh yeah, and you spoke about the House settlement a little bit there, and the opting in. What all does that mean? Roster limits and things that are being asked. Right, you have to have a certain maximum of this. You can cap out roster caps essentially. I should say, and
Yeah.
so knowing that there are different elements that come to this, and that if you opt in, there's this $22 million investment that a school has to make to give to their student athletes. And you said, we're a different conference. We're not the SEC. We're not the Big Ten. And you do have football within the NEC. And so how do you go about this? Because I've spoken with individual members of your conference and how they've said like, well, we can choose individually if we want to opt in or not. And then there's a conference look at it. And you said you have these presidents that you feel are aligned. So what does the NEC see with what's going on? Because there's this cloudiness, Noreen, of the House settlement and people thinking, okay, whatever's settled on, then this is what everybody has to do. And then you talk to an institution and like, well, no, we don't have to necessarily opt into this. We may have to do this, but not that. So when it comes to roster caps and it comes to freeing up money and all these things that come with the House settlement and the new look of what collegiate athletics is what are the things that the NEC has to do? And is it a membership individual where they're choosing, or are you as the commissioner sitting down with the president saying collectively we need to find what we agree on and what we can and cannot do? Because I think a lot of people think whatever the decision is in the settlement, you're like every conference in Division I is literally chained to the ground to that, and that's what they have to do. And that might not necessarily be the case.
Yeah, no, it's actually not the case. So the settlement requires the A4 or the A5 defendants to opt in. And so if the settlement's approved, they must follow the settlements. Everybody else, the rest of the conferences, have a decision, right? It's institutional or conference discretion. Some conferences are saying, yep, everybody needs to opt in. We all need to be investing minimum numbers of dollars, whether it's to basketball or football. But many conferences, especially at our level, are allowing it to be an institutional decision. And because there's a lot of moving parts, right? So the biggest obstacle for schools in our league and leagues like us are their roster caps, right? So a lot of these roster caps would result in schools having to eliminate opportunities for student athletes. And that doesn't jive with their approach on college athletics, which is to provide as many opportunities as possible.
Right.
And so if you opt in and you provide any benefits that are permitted by the settlement, and by benefits, I mean benefits that exceed the current level benefits that you can provide. So the roster limit. So there's a negative in that you have limited to how many people you can have on your roster. But the positive for those that opt in is you can give everybody on that roster a scholarship or part of a scholarship. So scholarship opportunities will be increased, but overall student athlete opportunity might be decreased. So there's a push-pull there. In our league, many of our schools, if they had to implement an opt-in for next year, would have to cut some up to hundreds of student athletes based on some of these roster caps. So one, it's an enrollment situation because they have, these students are current students, and if they don't have an opportunity, will they lose students? And the other is, frankly, not sure our schools have the budgets to radically enhance the number of scholarships they're providing. And so why would you opt in to something that's going to limit opportunities in a space where you may not really be able to invest many more, resources, whether it's in the form of scholarships or in the revenue share.
Right.
So we revenue share, well, heck, based on the money we're bringing in, the students might have to pay us back. So it's you've got to look at it is what's the benefit of opting in? The benefit of opting in is you can provide more benefits to your student athletes if you have the resources to do that. So, but if you're going to opt in and you will be limited in your number of student athletes, but you're not going to then in turn provide more benefits to your students, what's the ROI on that? Is it just a public perception that you said you're opting in, and is that enough to say, well, we're going to swim with the big boys, but we're actually, not going to change the way we do business other than from a public perception standpoint?
Right. Yeah. And that's, again, when people look at perception and is perception truly reality in this climate that we have in collegiate athletics, are people making decisions to just look like it, to try and recruit that way, or do they actually have the resources to do it? Here with Noreen Morris in this edition of Commissioner Corner on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora inside the Great Lakes Honda City Studios. You do have football, and inside of the Northeast Conference, the NEC, Central Connecticut State, who's a full member. We have Long Island, who's a full member, Wagner, who's a full member, St. Francis, PA, who is a full member through next season, Mercyhurst and Stonehill, who are full members, and Stonehill going through reclassification still, and Mercyhurst doing that as well. And then you have Robert Morris and Duquesne, who come in as associate members. What does football look like for the future for the NEC, knowing that football has been such a driving force in realignment, in NIL, in the transfer portal, in the house settlement, and everything that's going on? Football has been such a big factor. What can you say about the future of NEC football?
NEC football is a huge part of the fabric of our conference, as well as the institutions themselves. And the sport of football will continue to play a big part in the NEC. We obviously, in addition to us bringing in New Haven, right, they have a football program. Chicago State is adding football, starting a program. So they will play with us starting in 2027. They'll play an independent schedule in 2026. So we are very excited about the trajectory of our football programs, because we have some great programs that have storied histories. And we've got our D2 schools coming up, and then obviously Chicago State adding. So it's a huge part of what we do from a conference perspective. It's one of the sports that gives us great exposure. Yeah. And on our campuses, it plays a role from a community standpoint, bringing fans to campus, having all sorts of institutional events hosted in conjunction with football games. We have a television package that we provide exposure for our schools. So football still will continue to be a huge part of our strategic initiatives.
Yeah, and with St. Francis, PA, after 25-26, going from D1 to D3 and leaving the NEC, like you said, Chicago State creating a football program that was not there before. Having something truly new for you coming from Chicago State, and then New Haven, who we'll talk about coming into the conference as well. You'll have 9 members at that point for football, with 2 being associate members. What can you say to the future of that? Like you said, there's already a package. There's a way to get exposure. They're going to be part of your strategic plan moving forward, and football is very much alive in the NEC. But having this awesome reality of bringing in New Haven that has a program, and then being able to be a conference saying we're not only ushering in Chicago State from independent to being a part of the NEC, which has already happened, but to have a football program coming out of Chicago State to see what that development looks like within your conference, just what that means to you to have the excitement of new members and newer members, and now to have the excitement of a new football program.
Yeah, I mean, I think you just hit the nail on the head, which is excitement. To be able to continue to grow our football program and our football league, and to do so in a way that, you know, we're aligning with, like you said, new schools through Chicago State. New Haven's had a strong football program. They won the NE10 last year. There's a connection there. Tom Pinsence is the AD at Central Connecticut. His brother is the head football coach at New Haven. So there's a connection there, and they're they know each other very well, right? So that'll be a really nice immediate rivalry. And I think just with any of our schools, the ability to travel to Chicago, to see that city, to provide our students with that experience. Because, you know, if you've grown up in the Northeast or you're from elsewhere in the country or otherwise, great opportunity to go visit the Windy City, my former home for 14 years. So I also enjoy getting back myself to see the city and my old stomping grounds. But, you know, football, its growth, are bringing in Robert Morris to help shore up our numbers. And, you know, obviously they had a strong season this year and renewing some rivalries there as well. So, you know, just nothing but, I think, positive relative to our football programs.
And we spoke here a little bit about it, but the University of New Haven, we're on the heels of this happening, accepted as a full member to the NEC. They'll be moving from the NE10 NCAA Division 2 to NCAA Division 1 of the NEC, and that will be happening on July 1st, 2025. So less than 2 months away at the time that Noreen and I are speaking here in this edition of the Commissioner Corner on Wake Up Call inside of the Great Lakes Honda City Studios. Coming from the NE10, Mary Mack originally did, who's not a part of the conference anymore. And then we saw we saw Stonehill, then Lemoyne, now the University of New Haven. And the excitement around this, they're on Connecticut's southern coast, and they'll begin this transition during the 2025-26 academic year. They will be a full Division I member of the NCAA in 2028-29, following the NCAA current mandate that we have for reclassification. And so looking at this and what this means, we look at the charter members of the NEC, Fairleigh Dickinson, Long Island, St. Francis, who's here for another season, and Wagner, and then Central Connecticut State, who came in 1997. Stonehill came in 2022, Lemoyne in 23, Chicago State in 24, and Mercyhurst also in 24. To look at the membership now, Noreen, and what this is as we move forward today, I'd love to get your thoughts specifically on the University of New Haven, staying in the Northeast, staying in Connecticut, and getting the opportunity to have them jump in right away here this year, July 1st of 2025, and have them compete not only as a part of the NEC in 2025, but because your conference is doing things that I greatly respect and appreciate, which is open up the opportunity for postseason tournaments and championships to new members, including reclassification. So they're not just having a regular season and then sitting and waiting for this NCAA 4-year window to open. The fact that you're bringing in these schools and giving them an immediate green light to participate, like New Haven, right away, I want to say thank you for that, because it gives the student athletes something to fight for, and it still gives them a championship to win. So your thoughts on New Haven and why you continue to stand, in my opinion, at the top of the mountain when it comes to conference realignment, in not slamming the door on schools that already have to wait for the NCAA.
Well, thank you for that. You may take back some of your kudos as I explain our policy. But our policy currently is that when we have multiple reclassifying schools, we allow two to be access to the NEC championship. So in this case, this year we have 3. Mercyhurst was the 3rd school to join. in that case, Mercyhurst is not eligible
Right.
for the NEC championships that have an AQ, right? So if there's no AQ connected to the sport, then they can participate. So swimming and diving, outdoor track and field. I'm trying to think of the others, but there's a few others that we don't have an AQ into the field. So Mercyhurst this year is not eligible, but with Stonehill hopefully taking advantage of the new 3-year window for reclassification. They just had their site visit, so we're hoping that they will get approved for next year. So that means we'd have Mercyhurst and Moyne would be the 2 top contenders because they have been in the league longer. So then Mercyhurst will receive access to the championships in 25-26, which would be their second year. So they only had 1 year without access to championships. Right. So now New Haven coming in is the 3rd school. So for the first year, they will not have access to our NEC championships that have AQs. But hopefully Lemoyne then goes in 26-27 into full D1 status. And then New Haven would be then the second of 2 still reclassifying schools. So therefore they would have access in their second year. But that's contingent on Lemoyne getting out of the 3-year process in 26-27.
Yeah, and you mentioned that, and I knew that about Mercyhurst going into it. When you decided, when Lemoyne came in, and I was speaking with Bob Beretta, the athletics director at the time at Lemoyne, he was saying, hey, we think this could be a real thing. And it obviously affected Stonehill, who went a year early out of the NE10 in Division 2 to Division 1. So Stonehill got to enjoy this decision made by the NEC that Lemoyne has enjoyed as well, being able to play 4 championships in the NEC from the beginning. But like you said, with Mercyhurst, they've had to wait. But with this new 3, and this is where it gets confusing, and it's like follow the bouncing ball, which you so, easily put together here and broke down, and I appreciate, is that there's a 4-year hiatus with the NCAA, but it can be a 3-year. And so if a team is able to a school is able to reclassify in 3 years instead of 4, then that opens up Mercyhurst. And then if Lemoyne does it, then that would open up, like you said, New Haven. So you as the NEC, even giving an opportunity to any school, first and foremost, is where my kudos is coming from, that you're giving them an opportunity to have some life, where your original plan, the original plan was the NCAA makes you wait 4, the NEC makes you wait 2. So you taking that away and giving Stonehill and Lemoyne an opportunity gave them something that they wouldn't have had, and they would have been sitting out of everything, in Lemoyne's case, last season and this season. So that's where the kudos comes in. But knowing that there's this 3-year window instead of a 4-year window, I'd love for you to go a little bit deeper into that, because that was something that is not readily available to the typical average fan, knowing that you can take a 4-year reclassification, and with these meetings with the NCAA, they have now approved a 3-year instead of a 4-year window, which gets you into NCAA competition faster, and you can get that automatic qualifier from the NEC and go into the NCAA tournaments and the NCAA championships. I love to go into that a little bit deeper, because that was something that is not, in a lot of ways, is still not public knowledge to many people, that you can, in the case of Lemoyne, come out of next season and go right in instead of having to wait 2 more years.
Yeah. So the previous rule was that institutions that wanted to transition, in order to transition, the only thing they needed to do to start the process was to get an invite from a conference and submit the application to the NCAA by June 1, which is a very comprehensive application process in terms of how much information they have to provide. And then they have to pay their entry fee all at once. And that entry fee is the average Division 1 distribution in the year prior. So that number has gone from like 1.6 to 1.8. Now it's close to $1.9 million. So that was the old process. So you just needed an invite, you needed to apply and pay your entry fee, and then you had 4 years to go through the process. It was overseen by the Strategic Vision and Planning Committee, which is a subcommittee of the D1 Council, of which I chaired for 2 years. So I'm very familiar with this process. And then you really just have to get the okay from the SVPC. There were no benchmarks or standards that were hard fast. It was just, let's watch them go through their plan for 4 years. Are they meeting the plan? Are they still moving forward? Are they, meeting all of the coaching and the scholarships and their budgets? And, you just want to make sure they're continuing to move forward. And then after the 4 years, SCPC says they recommend, it goes to the board of directors and they say yes. The new process that we just voted in January creates a 3-year reclassification process that has significantly more entry requirements and also implements exit requirements to get out after the 3 years. Now, the 3-year program will be the only option for New Haven because it's the new rule now for any reclassifying school. So they're going to follow the 3-year program. For the programs that are already in reclassification, the NCAA said you can stick with your 4-year program if you'd like.
Yeah.
But if you want to expedite it in 3 years, then you have to meet the exit benchmarks. And the exit benchmarks are around academic performance as well as financial commitments. And there are a couple of benchmarks that you have to meet. Each team has to meet a minimum APR score. So every team has to meet the minimum for you to be able to get approved at the end of the 3rd year. And you have to meet minimum financial commitment around scholarships and around operating budgets. Actually, it's operating budget is the front end. There's an entry benchmark for operating budgets of the institution. You have to meet a minimum standard based on the conference's operating budgets. So there's a lot more to it. Yeah. And there's more, you have to prove coming in that you're meeting certain metrics, and you have to prove when you leave, you have to meet certain metrics. So with Stonehill, they will meet those metrics. So they'll be able to, assuming the NCAA approves their final submission of a strategic plan, as well as a self-study and an academic review and a compliance review, as long as they meet all those things, then they should be able to get through into the D1 process for next year. Moyne will have the opportunity this fall to say whether or not they want to go with the expedited process of 3 years, because those benchmarks, the exit benchmarks, will be potentially changed each year, depending on, because it's a financial, minimum financial spend by Division I institutions. They do that, use that as a comparison. So those numbers could change over time. So then Moyne will choose in the fall if they want to go to the 3-year process. And then the following fall, Mercyhurst would choose whether or not they want to do the 3-year process.
Yeah. And I did talk to Moyne a little bit about this. It's advantageous, obviously, but like you said, there's all these things you have to meet in academics, in your operating budget, in compliance. You said Stonehill is on pace to do it. So the hope is that Stonehill, going into the fall here of 2025, is a fully fledged NCAA Division I institution. They can compete in NCAA tournaments and championships in all their sports. And then Moyne would have the choice. If they want to go forward with this, they would be able to do it in 26, Mercyhurst at 27. Right. And then, like you said, New Haven is in the 3-year plan because they're coming after the decision was made. So for you, what does that do as you look to expand, as you look to bring in these schools and do these things? Because you've had so many NCAA Division II institutions, you're not simply realigning, right, in the NEC. You've been realigning and reclassifying with a lot of these institutions. To know that there's a 3-year process now and there's a 3-year opportunity now, what does that do advantageously for the NEC as you keep those realignment shoes on and continue to look?
I think the 3-year window is appealing, right? Because it's just less of a wait time for those student athletes to be fully integrated into the NCAA. It's less time for us to have a team and an institution to qualify as a D1 member. But there's some risk involved because of the entry. I mean, the entry benchmarks you can figure out pretty easily on the front end, but the exit benchmarks, in particular, the academic benchmarks, are, you have to make sure that you are in recruiting the right students, and the retention is hard when you go through transition, and the academic metric, one of them, well, the one that you have to meet leaving is the APR, which measures retention and eligibility. So if you have a lot of students that are leaving because they don't want to be D1, that could impact your APR in the long run. So those are things that institutions are going to have to understand on the front end. And we will too, because if you don't, let's say you're at the 3-year mark and they look at the second year of APR, and you don't make it, one team of all your teams doesn't make the minimum of 930 APR, you stay in the process another year until you can prove you can get out and meet the benchmarks. So that's a risky proposition. So schools have to understand, who are their coaches, how are they recruiting, what kind of support do you have for academics within the athletic realm, increased travel, with our league, probably traveling further and longer than they have been currently. So there's a lot of moving parts that an institution would have to consider and evaluate before making that decision, of which New Haven did, right? So they did a deep dive and understand what it is they'll need to meet coming in and exiting, and they're confident that they'll be able to do that.
Yeah, and like you said, I mean, they're in the 3-year. So let's say, I mean, if a school, now that this has been voted on in January, if a school is reclassifying from Division 2 or Division 3 to Division 1, and they know they have this 3 years instead of 4 years, because you said if they don't hit that exit APR, then they're going to have to stay another year. In the case of a school saying we want to do 3, and the NCAA says, no, you're going to have to do 4 because you didn't hit this benchmark, a school that is like New Haven, who is given the 3 and there is no 4, it's like it's a 3-year thing now. Can it become a 4 in that case? Yeah. Can the NCAA do that?
Yeah. So if you, in this new 3-year process, the intention is you exit after year 3. But if you don't meet the exit benchmarks, you are put right back in, and you're in it as long as you don't meet the exit benchmarks.
Okay.
So it could be 4, it could be 5. You have to meet the benchmarks to get out. So that's the key. It could be 4, it could be more if they're not meeting the benchmarks.
So when you look at these new institutions that have come in and are coming in the case of New Haven, speaking here with Noreen Morris, the commissioner of the NEC, I know you talked about Stonehill has done what they've needed to do and they should be in good shape to move forward as they hopefully can go right into the NCAAs now. Moyne is officially going into year 3 in their reclassification period. And then, like you said, Chicago State was already a D1 independent, so they're in their unique world. Mercyhurst was coming from D2, and New Haven's coming from D2. What have you seen as the commissioner of this conference? Because obviously you're given information. You're as the leader of this conference, you and your team are looking at the progress of each of your institutions, because people can say things, but actions speak louder. So how have you seen the Stonehills and the Moynes and the Mercyhursts of the world? How have they been replying to what needs to be done? And what can you say, hindsight 2020, of the members that you've brought in and the process that they're going through?
I think, take Stonehill, since they're the ones that are currently have the opportunity to commit to going into year 3. They're a very strong academic institution. So I don't think they had any concerns on the APR piece. I think it's just going through the motions and being the first, right? They're kind of the guinea pigs. Yeah. on going through a new process. And so, fortunately for us, we'll learn from their experience. Unfortunately for them, they might have had to jump through some hoops that maybe some others aren't, based on some of the reviews that are being done. Because the NCAA is trying to make it up as they go along too, because it's just new, right? And it was fast,
Yeah.
and so had to do an academic review for reclassifying school. Might need to kind of tweak that as we move forward. But Stonehill is all in, right? They are very excited about the opportunity to get into the NCAA a year early, and I think they were just already positioned from a financial and a academic standpoint to easily meet the metrics that are in front of them. And this weekend they hosted not only our women's lacrosse championship, but they also hosted the NEC outdoor track and field championship, and they did an incredible job. And especially hard to host one. They hosted two in the same facility. And even had to experience about a 2-hour lightning delay with the women's lacrosse. We didn't, the staff after the game ended probably around 10:30 p.m. didn't leave till about midnight, and they were all back the next day for track and field. So they're super excited for the opportunity to host championships. And that just kind of gives them more energy to make sure they get through this process and dot all the I's and cross all the T's as they get to this June 1, final submission for the NCAA. So they've been nothing but incredible, and the whole campus is 100% committed to doing what they need to do to finish it out and kind of get elevated to D1 for next year.
Yeah, and you're taking a chance, right? I mean, whenever you bring in these members, you're taking a chance on the presidents, you're taking a chance on the athletic directors, you're taking a chance on the coaches, the student athletes, the entire institution. And when you're taking this chance, you're doing your homework, you're doing your due diligence. You said they reach out to you, right? You have to know that there's interest, but then you have to do everything on your side to do your own essential independent study as a conference. So hindsight 2020, looking at these schools, and like I said, a lot of them reclassifying from D2 to D1, what can you say about the decisions of the NEC, of these institutions that they've chosen, like a Stonehill? Because, Noreen, you could do all your homework, you could check everything and talk to everybody, but there's that hope involved, right? There's that faith involved, because we can't see the future. We can try to determine where we're heading and make a plan for it, but you never know exactly what's going to happen. And they say that, if you want to make God laugh, tell him your plans. So when you look hindsight 2020 at these institutions that have been reclassifying and that you took into the NEC, you took a chance on them. How has that chance that you've taken been reflective in what they've actually done compared to what they've promised?
I think that our board, our board of presidents, council presidents, they look brilliant at this point. We are very deliberate in our review of potential members, and we look at lots of details around the financial sustainability of the school itself, the innovation. What are they doing to elevate their university from an academic standpoint? We look at the academic success of their students generally, and then obviously we look at student athletes. But when you're looking at schools at our level, it's less about the athletics and more about the institutional fit. And so we spend a lot of time kind of, where is this university? Where are they positioned? What are they doing to strengthen themselves? How are they engaging with their community, whether that's locally, regionally, or globally? How does athletics, what role does athletics play in their overall strategic plan for the university? In each of the cases, it's important that athletics plays a role in the strategic plan of the university. The whole athletics is the front porch of any university. You need that kind of hand in hand, where the athletics is also being strengthened and that it's part of the bigger picture. So that's when our presidents, we review all the data, but then we bring in the president of the university for kind of a presentation and a dialogue. And there is a lot of back and forth with the presidents, and they want to better understand the president's commitment, not only to athletics and D1, but to their strategic plan, and how does this move to D1 help them with that plan. So why NEC, why D1, why now, right? So we really do have a pretty in-depth, deliberate process so that we can make the right decisions at the end of the day.
Yeah, and one of the bittersweet, before I let you go, Noreen, is the fact that St. Francis, Pennsylvania, they're with you for 25, 26, but then they're going to D3. But before they leave, their men's basketball team punched their ticket to the NCAA tournament. What was that like, experiencing that for you? Because St. Francis, PA has been a part of the fabric of the NEC. And despite the fact of this decision that they've made and that you won't have them as a member after 25, 26, they've still had their glory days and their big moments, which include an NCAA tournament berth this past season for men's basketball.
That will forever be part of their history. And I'm super excited that Rob Krimmel had that opportunity. He's a lifelong St. Francis, student, coach. And he's put his heart and soul into that basketball program, and to see them have that success was wonderful. And obviously it was bittersweet because days later the university made the announcement that they would be moving to D3. But that again is a philosophical decision that they wanted to align with the university, and so their view of athletics in this current landscape has changed.
Yeah.
And for their institution, they felt like that was their best decision. Now, I certainly hope that decision plays out and it helps them to succeed as a university. And I'm not going to judge or fault anyone for making decisions they think is in the best interest of their university. But then you look at a New Haven, right, and they're really focusing on what does athletics do, what can it do to build their brand and to make them a stronger university. And they've got tons of momentum on their campus in New Haven. They have a new president in Jens Fredrickson. He's been there for 13 months. He's done some tremendous things already. They have I think it was a $10 million gift recently to help with their College of Business. They're their first sponsor partner with the New York Mets, the first higher ed partnership with the Mets. They are opening a branch campus in Saudi Arabia. They just received a big donation to help support this transition from D1 into D1. They're building tons of capital improvement on their campus, 22 million in 24 and I think 13 million in 23. So there's just a lot of momentum on that campus. And Jens Fredrickson is seeing athletics as a way to align the athletics with where the campus is going, right? The campus is growing, it's strengthening, they're getting a brand that's, outside of the region and more, international, and beyond, the Northeast region. So for them to be able to come in and partner with us and partner with the Chicago State or Mercyhurst kind of outside of their region, is great. And then athletics, they have a new AD, Devin Crosby. He's been there for 8 months, and the two of them, Jens and Devin, are amazing. They a tag team that one I haven't seen in a long time. They're both on the same page. They have tons of energy and commitment, and a vision that they're moving forward together. So that was really appealing for us, because of kind of all the energy and innovation that's coming out of their new leadership. It was a big draw, right? That they've got the momentum and they're moving in a different direction. Now St. Francis had made a different decision, and again, it's all about alignment with your university. And New Haven is showing us that this alignment is there between athletics and the university, and they want to bring athletics to the same highest level of excellence that the rest of their institution is moving towards.
Yeah, and it's exciting. It's exciting for New Haven. It's exciting for the NEC. Noreen,
Yeah.
a final note here, and you and I have talked about this before. When it comes to associate memberships, I think you get a Pulitzer Prize for the fact that you have just gone out and found so many ways to make sure that, like you said, your 25 different programs when it comes in the world of athletics are taken care of. You brought men's lacrosse back, which is a beautiful thing, and I commend you for that. We've talked about that over time. But your associate members in Binghamton, Cleveland State, Coppin State, as well as Damon, Delaware State, Detroit Mercy, Duquesne, Deauville, as well as Fairfield. And I just went to Deauville a little while ago here when there was a tournament going on. I had the opportunity to go on their campus and see all the work that they've done, which is incredible. Fairfield, Howard, as well as Merrimack staying for field hockey, Maryland, Eastern Shore, Monmouth, Niagara, Norfolk State, North Carolina Central, Ryder, Robert Morris, Sacred Heart staying in field hockey, and VMI. Just to look at the future, as we know right now, after next season, we know that there'll be 9 full-time members as of now with the NEC, but there's all these associate members. So just what you could say to the entire footprint of the NEC, because though you can't call all of those members official full-time ones, and maybe they don't have an NEC logo on their jersey, in a lot of cases, and in the case of Howard especially, you have schools that have so many sports that you've given them a home to. And just what that means for the NEC as you step forward, that your membership is important, but not just your full. The fact that you allow so many associate members to have a home and have a place. And in the case of Binghamton, they were having to play golf and go out to like the Dakotas. They were out in the middle of nowhere, and you gave them a place to really have things in their backyard. Just what you could say to the associate membership as well.
Yeah, I mean, the associate membership, when I arrived at the NEC, we only took in associate members if we needed them to meet the minimum AQ requirement. So 6 programs in all sports, but basketball, which requires 7. And that we had a very small menu of associate members at that time. But as the landscape changed, we ended up bringing Howard in for, at the time, 6 and now 7 sports. Not because we needed them for the AQ. We were fine in all of our sports, but we did it because we felt as a conference it was the right thing to do. That Howard had 6 sports and 6 different conferences. Their women's soccer team was playing all of their conference games on the road for their then associate member conference. And we had, we focus on access and opportunity. And I thought, well, these student athletes need to have a good experience. I was a soccer player and in college, and I couldn't imagine playing all my home games on the road, right? So we ended up bringing in Howard because, we wanted to give those student athletes an opportunity. And then when the MEAC lost some members and they needed homes for baseball and women's golf, we said, yes, come on over. We didn't need them for our numbers, but again, we felt it was the right thing to do. Same thing with Binghamton. Like, we don't want schools to drop sports because they don't have a home that makes sense. So we brought them in knowing, Binghamton's pretty good in men's tennis. And they've showed that they've won our championship the last 2 years. So and there's a push and a pull on those discussions too. But in the end, our league is like, let's do the right thing. And so we did that with Damon and Deauville, bringing them in as a D2 members of a D1 conference. We didn't need them, but felt like, let's grow the sport. Let's make sure people have opportunities. So all of a sudden we went from maybe, 4 associate members to 20 plus. It's a lot. It's a heavy lift for my staff because they have to manage, that many more administrations and coaches. But I think it makes us stronger, and I think it makes the student athlete experience better for everybody involved, not just the schools that we're giving an opportunity to play, but for our schools to have the opportunity to play against schools from the MEAC or play against schools from other conferences. So I think it's a win-win. And, hopefully we can continue to provide those experiences.
Well, Noreen, you get the final word as we step forward in the NEC. What would you like to share as the vision continues on the horizon for the Northeast Conference?
I think that the Northeast Conference is resilient. It's committed to our student athletes and the experiences we provide, and we will continue to fight hard for our student athletes to have that opportunity and to provide the best experience we can from a regular season to a postseason. We're making lifelong memories, right? And we're we're developing the next leaders of this country. And frankly, we have so many international student athletes. We're making a mark, and we'll continue to do so. And we're proud of what we do and how we do it. And we're just excited for the future, knowing that there's lots of uncertainty around us from a national perspective, but we'll continue to focus on the right things and continue to do the job that we've done for 40 plus years as a conference, but 15 under my tutelage. And I've got a staff that's been incredible. We have a team that's been, most of us together, 10 plus years, and they're fully committed to the NEC, and they work as a team like no other group I've ever seen. So they are tremendous and a huge asset for the NEC, and I want to thank them publicly for all the work that they've done as we get through kind of the end of this year. And 3 championships last weekend, plus announcement of a new school. I put them to the test, and they got an A+. So that's my spiel, which is I really love the NEC, what we do, how we do it, and I love the people that we do it with.
Well, that coming from Noreen Morris, the commissioner of the NEC, giving love to her entire team, because there is a team behind all of these teams that make sure that this thing keeps moving in a positive and progressive direction inside of collegiate athletics and the new model that we have here for these student athletes and coaches. Noreen, as always, it is my pleasure to have you in Commissioner Corner here on Wake Up Call inside the Great Lakes Honda City Studios. And as I've said before, and I'll say it again, thank you for the work you do. Thank you for caring about things that not every conference leans on, and for really trying to make sure that each decision is made is purposeful and with a step forward without taking 2 steps back. So I do appreciate that.
All right. Thank you. Always enjoy our conversations.
I want to thank you for tuning in to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora inside the Great Lakes Honda City Studios, Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time on YouTube.com and Facebook.com, both /WakeUpCallDT for audio and video, and our live internet streaming radio that comes to you on WakeUpCallDT.podbean.com. And of course, once we go live, we jump into the archives, and you can find us on Amazon Music, Audible, iHeartRadio, iTunes and Apple Podcasts, Player FM, Podbean, Podchaser.com, Podvine, Spotify, TuneIn, and YouTube. All you have to do is search Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, or one word, Wake Up Call DT. And many thanks to the wonderful Brooklyn Pickle in Southern Pines, North Carolina. From New York to North Carolina, you'll find them on 1788 Old Morganton Road in Southern Pines, North Carolina, right down the road from Pinehurst Golf Course that the PGA Tour knows all too well. That New York flavor, a sandwich, all of those great sandwiches, all the ingredients, all of the wonderful things we've been spoiled with in the great state of New York are down in North Carolina as the Brooklyn Pickle ventures down the coast to Southern Pines on 1788 Old Morganton Road in Southern Pines, North Carolina. Let them know that DT sent you. And of course, many thanks to our team of partners in Central and Upstate New York, Great Lakes Honda City, where you can go Monday through Saturday for sales and service and get yourself new and used vehicles. If you want to tour what they have on the lot, go to GreatLakesHondaCity.com. You also get the phone numbers there for their sales and service at GreatLakesHondaCity.com. And I want to thank Great Lakes Honda City for over a decade of me bringing home vehicles that I have enjoyed. So many thanks to Great Lakes Honda City, our exclusive studio partner. Carvel DeWitt, the exclusive home of the DT Dolphin. It's our ode to the Moyne College Dolphins. You will find our DT Dolphins Sunday on site, on location, down the road from Moyne College on 4322 East Genesee Street in DeWitt, New York. Carvel DeWitt, the longest standing franchise in America with the DT Dolphin exclusive. And that is mint chocolate chip, whipped cream and a cherry, hot fudge, green and gold sprinkles, and a chocolate dolphin jumping out of your whipped cream. Get it 7 days a week, and on Wednesdays, buy one, get one. The Wildcat Sports Pub, where we proudly call home to our West Genesee shows of over 8 years. With the West Genesee Wildcats coaches and student athletes, as well as their families, you'll find us at the Wildcat Sports Pub on 3680 Milton Avenue in Camillus, New York. GG Cards and Breaks, your one-stop sports card and trading card shop. A place that helps you be a big kid, no matter what your age is. And you can celebrate it with your parents, your grandparents, your friends, your neighbors, your girlfriend, your boyfriend. GG Cards and Breaks is a place for everyone of all ages, because our kid spirit should always, always be vibrant and strong. GG Cards and Breaks, where you can find them Tuesday through Saturday from 10 a.m. to 6, Sundays from 10 to 5, and of course 639 Delmar Place in Syracuse is the location. And monthly we have Trade Night, where you could buy, sell, and trade sports cards, as well as Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh!, Magic the Gathering, and Disney Lorcana. Ma and Pa's, the snack capital of the world. You'll find Ma and Pa's on 201 Old 7th North Street in Liverpool, New York, with multiple types of freeze-dried candy, as well as cotton candy, lemonade, and a plethora of flavors when it comes to kettle corn, popcorn, and premium corn, like the Elvis, which is banana-covered popcorn with the peanut butter Reese's drizzle, the way that Elvis liked peanut butter and banana. All of the wonderful things that you see are made in-house at Ma and Pa's. The lemonade, the cotton candy, the freeze-dried candy, as well as the popcorn and kettle corn. Find it all and on 201 Old 7th North Street in Liverpool, New York. And if you're out of town and you want to order it, and I just made your mouth water, go to Ma and Pa's popcorn.com and you can order today. Avicoli's, our home of our Liverpool athletic broadcast with student athletes, coaches, and administration every single month on 7839 Oswego Road in Liverpool, New York, at the corner of Wetzel Road and Route 57. And if you stand on the corner, you can see Liverpool High School within walking distance of Avicoli's, open 7 days a week. As well as Servomation, reinvigorating, re-energizing, reimagining what it is to have vending, whether it be at your high school, your grammar school, your preschool, your college, university, place of business, rest stop, airport. Servomation, the technology they have, the assortment, the variety that they have, and the quality of food. I've toured their facility in upstate New York, and you wouldn't believe the kitchen. There's restaurants that would beg to have a kitchen like this. Servomation does it differently, and I'm very happy to say that we are partnered with them. SERVOMATION.com. Go there for more information. Mother's Cupboard, the home of my breakfast sandwich exclusively in Central New York, 3709 James Street in Syracuse, 7 days a week from 6 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. You will find the Cuse McMother, bacon, egg, and cheese inside of 2 pieces of French toast. Cut it up and have it with some syrup. Pick it up and eat it like a sandwich and dip it in the syrup, and do it today. Chick-fil-A Cicero, the first Chick-fil-A in Central New York, and owner-operator Jim Rusakowski, a brother of mine. You don't want to miss out on Chick-fil-A, and Chick-fil-A Cicero specifically is a step above, in my opinion. There's people that are proud to see you, team members that are incredible. Chick-fil-A Cicero, they do it to the nth degree. They break the mold, and you can find those team members in our series, The Light Between Us, which airs every single month. Go to youtube.com/wakeupcalldt and search the Light Between Us playlist. Canine Camp Dog Daycare. There's no better place to bring your dog out in East Syracuse. Daycare. Hey, we all got stuff going on, and sometimes we just have to drop our dog off so that our dog's not sitting at home in a kennel or just being at home by themselves. The daycare at Canine Camp Dog Daycare on 228 Old Bridge Street in East Syracuse, across from BJ's, is the perfect place to go because of Lorraine, because of Chad, because of the care, concern, and the service to our wonderful animals. Head over there today, and of course you can call them at 315-437-7110 or go online to K-9kamp.com. Pizza Man, who we absolutely love going every single month and having our Baldwinsville Bees broadcast at Pizza Man on 50 Oswego Street in Baldwinsville, New York. You don't want to miss any of those shows we do on-site, on location, including Off the Rails with Al, featuring college football national champion Al Romano, who played with Tony Dorsett as a Pittsburgh Panther, and hails from Solvay. A lot of great things we get to do at Pizza Man. Love the bees and appreciate the support that you have for their student athletes, coaches, administration, and families. And Brian's Landing, a place that we love to go out to in Jamesville. Brian's Landing, the menu that they have is eclectic. There's nothing on that menu where you sit there and go, oh, okay, like this is what the menu is because these 5 things are alike. No, everything is different. Something for everyone. 6523 East Seneca Turnpike in Jamesville, New York. The perfect place to go with a team, the perfect place to go with a friend, the perfect place to go on a date or bring mom and dad. Brian's Landing makes you feel like you're away from home on a vacation when you're just out in Jamesville by the water. Head to Brian's Landing today. And of course, many thanks to the Lemoyne College Dolphins, Bryan and Stratton College Bobcats of Syracuse, and the Binghamton University Bearcats for being our exclusive multimedia marketing partners. Lemoyne you will find Wednesdays at 9 a.m. Eastern Time during Dolphin Time. And of course, you'll find Binghamton on Tuesdays at 10 a.m. Eastern Time during Bearcat Time. All of our teams are on youtube.com/WakeUpCallDT. Click subscribe, hit the notification bell, find our Lemoyne playlist, our BSC Syracuse playlist, and our Binghamton playlist. You'll also find the Dolphins, the Bobcats, and the Bearcats by going to WakeUpCallDT.com's homepage and underneath the exclusive partners tab. For more information, go to LeMoyneDolphins.com as well as Syracuse.bscbobcats.com and BinghamtonBearcats.com. For now, from the Great Lakes Honda City Studios, I say God bless, no stress, do your best. This is Wake Up Call. I'm Dan Tortora, and remember, God loves you.